This is Primal. It's violent, it's gritty, it's savage, and yet there's beauty, sweetness, and even a little bit of happiness. But it's all primal. Created by the legendary creator Gendy Tartakovsky, Primal is a series about a caveman called Spear and a T-Rex called Fang, but specifically, how these two very different characters come together through shared trauma in order to survive this crazy, vicious world. This is honestly one of, if not my absolute favourite TV show of all time. Despite other fantastic animated shows like Invincible or Arcane, it's Primal that has managed to connect to me in such a big way. And honestly, we need more stuff like it. The modern day animation landscape is a very different place than it was a few years ago, with far less original animated shows being released, with stuff like Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney slowing down and just straight up cancelling shows left and right. It seems like the only place that's truly growing animation wise is adult animation, and even then, it's not great, with a lot of lazy Family Guy clones being pumped out and over the top unorganized messes like Hell of a Boss. It's truly becoming a mess. But despite all of the chaos, there was a little show with no dialogue that managed to push the limits of the medium and everything we knew about storytelling itself. But how did it do this? What was so special about Primal that the industry needs to learn from? Well, let's start with the characters. All good TV shows need identifiable characters, especially animated ones, as if your cast is too crowded or too disorganized, it can be very hard to remember any of them. But with Primal, they keep their cast small. In Season 1, it was only Spear and Fang, two characters who we see gradually over time grow closer to one another, through the simple but effective need for survival. Despite not being the same species, both characters perfectly demonstrate that they see each other as equals simply through their expressions and carefully chosen sound effects. We see the characters go through all the emotions, and since there's no dialogue, this show can afford to get right to the point and not waste our times. Its pacing is honestly brilliant, as the series is just so incredibly smart when it comes to telling the stories it wants to tell. Almost every episode knows exactly where to start, middle, and finish, with it spreading its time and effort equally. Some of my favourite episodes from the show are The Scent of Prey, Plague of Madness, Red Mist, and The Night Feeder, with these episodes in particular having fantastic uses of pacing that organically move forward with the story without needing to dumb things down or over explain ever. It respects your time and patience, as this show will always seek to make you feel something, whether that be whimsy, anger, or sadness. This show knows exactly how to get its emotions across, as once again, its brilliant relationship between Spear and Fang, and even with Mira, how they go through similar traumas, struggles, finding connection in their lowest moments, and through that ascending to their highest moments. It's difficult, even nerve-wracking at times, but it's because of that we in turn care so much about what's going on, and in particular, what's going to happen to our beloved characters. The only time where they actually struggle with this was probably the season 2 finale, as that episode was far more rushed in terms of its story, but even then it wasn't bad, just simply underwhelming. But one thing you can't ever say is underwhelming with this show is its visuals. Primal has a very distinct look, and while it was struggling to find that look in the beginning, by episode 6 they managed to get it just right, and you can see the process gradually build over time. It almost feels like a reward to finally see all this stuff come together. Studio Lekishet did a fantastic job on this series. The line work, the movement, the impact of everything, it all feels so well crafted and truly primal. Even the style perfectly reflects that, with season 1 being much more savage and untamed, and so having a more abstract and vigorous style. But as they get more advanced slowly, the style begins to reflect that. Those are little details you may not notice at first, but are absolute gems in practice. It's subtle things like that that just show how much people care about what it is they're making. With this show never settling for what's expected. I'm sure most people would be fine with an angry, violent show where dinosaurs just kill cavemen and wild stuff, but instead of allowing itself to fall to those standards, it instead raises itself to use said violence to paint a beautiful picture. It's not about the direct thing itself, but what those things mean. Primal was very good at going beyond what it was intended to be, and that's in large part why it's one of my favourite shows of all time. But why is Primal what animation needs? Well, you see, Primal is the perfect embodiment of what animation is capable of. There's so many shows now being created for novelty alone, like Velma being the first adult Scooby-Doo show, or Hazbin Hotel being the biggest rude indie show, or even the new norm of all things being the first Twitter political show. Animation has now become too safe, with so many shows simply relying on gimmicks in order to be successful. And Primal just proves you don't need to do that. You can do something very different, something more out there. You can break the mold and the status quo of what's already been done by pushing the medium forward. What makes animation different from every other medium out there is the fact it's a visual tool. It's perfect for showing us things you couldn't do in any other medium. It's about getting weird and standing out. Too much of what's being made today is simply there for notoriety or the paycheck. It all feels so cookie cutter and basic, almost like everyone's making the same thing, slop after slop. But with Primal, it proves that the only real limitations are you. If we want this medium to stay an art form, then it needs to constantly evolve and change. We need less stuff like the new norm, Velma, and instead, we need more stuff like Primal. But, what do you guys think? Do you agree with my opinions here, or do you perhaps differ to what I have to say? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'd love to see what you all have to say on this matter, and even discuss with you down in the comments on certain aspects. And while you're at it, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more in-depth breakdowns of certain shows just like this, then be sure to like the video and subscribe. My goal is to get to 10,000 subscribers before the midpoint of the year, and we are just so close to achieving that goal. So if you want to support me and help me make videos just like this video, subscribe, and with that peeps, it's been the Pinking here, and I will see you all next time.